Quick note before we start. This is analysis and perspective, not official news. Now let's get into the bigger picture for the Broncos. Hey Broncos country, what's up? Sitting here, looking out toward the Rocky Mountains, thinking about this team we've all bled orange for over the years, it genuinely feels like we're standing at an inflection point. Not the kind fueled by hype headlines or viral clips, but the quieter kind. The kind you only recognize in hindsight, when you realize a foundation was being reinforced while everyone else was distracted. Across the NFL, the coaching carousel is spinning again. Jobs opening, staffs reshuffling, assistants getting interviews, philosophies clashing. It's chaotic, like a fourth-quarter return in a snowstorm at Empower Field. And yet, in the middle of that chaos, Denver appears positioned in a way that feels different, more stable, more intentional, more respected than many want to admit. This isn't blind optimism. It's pattern recognition. In this breakdown, we're going to dive into what's happening around Dove Valley, what those movements may be signaling at a structural level, and how this could realistically unfold as the league settles into its next phase. One of the most talked about themes recently has been the possibility of changes within offensive coaching roles. To be very clear, until something is announced officially, everything here exists in the realm of possibility, not confirmation. That said, across the league, when head coaches reassess offensive structure, it usually isn't about blame, it's about alignment. In Denver's case, the passing game has shown steadiness over the past 2 seasons, but the run game hasn't consistently reached the level most teams expect from a balanced offense. That doesn't automatically mean failure. It means evaluation. In the NFL, when something stalls, especially something as foundational as the ground game, organizations often respond with philosophical resets. Sometimes that's schematic. Sometimes it's personnel. Sometimes it's a reallocation of responsibilities within the staff. And historically, Sean Payton has never been afraid of making uncomfortable decisions if he believes it improves the direction of the team. That matters, not because it guarantees success, nothing does, but because stagnation is far more dangerous than change. One interesting layer in all of this is how teams weigh continuity, particularly at quarterback. Across the league, there has been public discussion and speculation about assistant coaches receiving interest for larger roles elsewhere. This is normal when teams show progress. Other organizations notice. They inquire. Sometimes they hire. In Denver's case, the conversation has included names tied to quarterback development and offensive coordination. Again, to be clear, this is not reporting. It's reading league patterns and public chatter. Why does continuity matter so much here? Because quarterback development thrives on familiarity. Language, timing, footwork, progression rules. Those things don't reset cleanly. When staffs churn constantly, young quarterbacks are often forced into perpetual learning curves instead of refinement phases. If Denver can maintain internal stability while the rest of the league reshuffles, that's not accidental. It's strategic. Think of it like building a house. You don't rip out the foundation halfway through construction unless there's a structural failure. If something is working at a functional level, smart teams reinforce it. Another important element often misunderstood by fans is how elite head coaches manage their own bandwidth. Sean Payton is known as one of the most detail-oriented minds in the league. But detail obsession doesn't mean doing everything yourself forever. At a certain point, optimization matters. Across the NFL, many successful head coaches have gone through phases where they delegate play calling or shift responsibilities, not because they're stepping back, but because they're stepping up. Delegation, when done intentionally, increases efficiency. It allows head coaches to focus on macro-level adjustments, game management, situational football, staff cohesion, and long-term planning. If Denver adjusts internal roles to streamline that process, it wouldn't be a step backward. It would be a sign of maturity. Not long ago, there was public concern that Denver could lose multiple staff members to external interest. Names connected to defense, special teams, and player development were mentioned in league circles and fan discussions alike. Now, as openings around the league continue to fill. The picture looks different. When coaching vacancies dry up, so does leverage. That often leads to higher retention, especially in organizations where assistants feel valued, empowered, and positioned to grow. Continuity at the staff level is one of the most underrated competitive advantages in football. Teams don't just lose coaches, they lose language, teaching methods, trust, and rhythm. If Denver manages to retain a strong portion of its staff during this cycle, that's a quiet win. Let's talk about the players. One thing that stands out is the way Denver's roster, particularly in the trenches and on defense, continues to receive external acknowledgement. Not official proclamations, not guarantees, but recognition across multiple public platforms. Different outlets use different methodologies. Some lean on film, others on analytics, others on voting panels. Individually, those lists can be debated, but when multiple independent sources point in the same direction, that's meaningful. The offensive line, for example, has been increasingly described as a strength, not perfect, but reliable. Protection metrics vary, run blocking grades fluctuate, but the overarching theme remains consistent. This group is respected. And in the NFL, games are still won in the trenches. On defense, the same pattern emerges. Recognition in all-pro conversations, league rankings, and matchup breakdowns isn't accidental. When coaches, analysts, and former players align in their evaluations, it usually reflects real on-field impact. This doesn't mean Denver is elite across the board, but it does mean the floor has risen. Another subtle layer, often overlooked, is how experienced coaches engage with league-wide discussions. Participation in committees, forums, or broader football conversations doesn't guarantee advantage, but it does provide early awareness. The NFL evolves yearly. Emphases change. Officiating interpretations shift. Points of emphasis come and go. Teams that anticipate those shifts instead of reacting to them gain small edges that compound over a season. If Denver's leadership is involved in those discussions, or closely tracking them, it aligns with the franchise, thinking proactively rather than reactively. Zooming out to the division, instability remains the defining theme for many rivals. Some teams are rebuilding, others are retooling. Coaching changes, schematic overhauls, and roster churn introduce volatility. Sometimes volatility leads to quick improvement. Other times it leads to extended regression. Denver's advantage right now isn't dominance. It's calm, a stable core, a defined coaching philosophy, and incremental progress don't grab headlines. But they win over time. In a division where chaos is common, consistency becomes leverage. Broncos fans have seen cycles like this before and been burned. There were moments in the past decade where optimism was loud but hollow. Big names, big promises, shallow structure. This feels different because the optimism isn't centered on one move or one player. It's rooted in process. Coaching alignment, roster balance, external respect, organizational stability. None of those guarantee championships, but every championship team shares them. So when you connect all these dots, coaching scenarios, staff continuity, roster recognition, league patterns, and divisional context, the picture that emerges isn't hype. It's momentum. Quiet, deliberate momentum. The NFL is unpredictable. Injuries happen. Seasons turn on inches. But teams that build solid foundations consistently give themselves chances. Right now, Denver looks like a team doing exactly that. And for the first time in a while, that's not something that feels forced. Broncos country, I want to hear from you. How do you read these coaching shifts and roster signals? Do you see stability, or just another phase of uncertainty? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk it out. The journey continues, and the bigger picture is getting clearer.